So just 2 seasons ago, the Sacramento Kings were the best story in basketball, finishing as a top 3 seed in the Western Conference and making the playoffs for the first time since 2006, breaking the longest playoff drought in the NBA for that time span. And really, they made the playoffs when nobody thought they were going to be a top 6 seed. We all thought they were going to be same old Kings. They made some decent moves, and it was like, all right, whatever. We'll see what they look like. But they shocked a lot of people. They were 48-34. And like I mentioned, they were the best story in the NBA for that season. But then last season happened, and they kind of just stayed the same, while the rest of the Western Conference got better, which as a result led to them missing the playoffs, losing to the Pelicans in the play-in, and finishing as the 9 seed at 46-36, which is funny because it was only 2 games worse than what they were the year prior. Now you may be asking, what happened to the Kings last season? Well, really, like I said, nothing. They just stayed who they were the year prior, and they thought that continuity was going to carry over and blossom into them being a playoff team again, but it wasn't, unfortunately. The duo of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis still blossomed, and they both had All-NBA caliber seasons, with Sabonis being All-NBA third team and Fox being one of the best guards in the game, averaging 25-plus points per game on good efficiency. But the team just kind of felt stale, though. And guys like Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes had down seasons. Mainly their high-volume three-point shooters all had come-down-to-earth kind of seasons. Not saying that these guys can't shoot, but they all fell off a little bit compared to what they were in 2023. And they went from the number 1 offense in basketball that season to the 13th best offense in 2024. So they kind of just became a regular old average team that no one cared about, but they were decent, so they had some respect. And that leads to my next point, which is they needed something. They needed to add on to the team if they wanted to keep the fans fully invested and show that we're going to try to do something to at least believe that we can contend. And they made a move. They went out there this offseason, and I don't know how they did it, but they found a way. They went out there and acquired DeMar DeRozan in a sign and trade where they only traded Harrison Barnes, Chris Duarte, and second-round picks. That was a good deal. That was a good deal, considering what they had to give up and what they got in return. DeMar DeRozan last season was a 24-point-per-game scorer for Chicago and still proves to be an elite bucket getter at the age of 35. So I think it's a good addition to this team, and it gives them kind of a boost. Now, to be honest, their fit is a little weird with the big three of Fox, Sabonis, and now DeRozan, all being guys who are more of getting their buckets in that mid-range or at the basket territory. For Sabonis, it's a little bit different. He likes to get his buckets in the paint, mainly. But with Fox and DeRozan, it's a lot of similarities, when you look at their shot diet in specific, but they needed something to freshen up the team, and this move definitely does that. You look at this roster, you still got Keegan Murray, who's one of the best shooters in the league. He was one of the guys that had a down season last year. I don't expect him to shoot 35% this year. And he made some growth in other aspects of his game. So he's an interesting piece. He's still young. Malik Monk is a 6-man of the year caliber player. And I think Keon Ellis, who came onto this team just this past season, I think him getting inserted into that starting 5 for a full season should be a plus on the defensive side of the ball, where the Kings have pretty much been either bad or average the last 2 seasons. I think at best, the Kings are a mediocre defensive team, kind of just how they were last season. They ranked in the middle of the pack in major defensive categories, and like I said, they struggled in 2023. They were one of the worst defensive teams in the league that year. I think that's where they're kind of going to sit, as long as this is their core. And it's not a slight to them, but it's just what's holding them back. Keon Ellis is probably their best defender, and they don't really got a rim protector. Domantas Sabonis isn't known for protecting the rim. It'd be better if they were the ideal situation would be Sabonis playing the 4, and they could get a 5 that could stretch the floor and protect the rim, but those are hard to get. So Sabonis has to be their 5, and it just is what it is. And until then, like I said, they're just kind of stuck in the middle of the pack. Nothing really you can do about it. But on the offensive side of the ball, it should be exciting to see two elite mid-range shot makers like Fox and DeRozan being able to come off those Sabonis DHOs and do what they do best, while also being able to attack you in isolation as well if they need to. This move should reignite some of that spark that the Kings had in the 2023 season on the offensive side of the floor, because if you look at last season, the Kings got worse offensively, got better defensively, so it kind of just balanced out and they were close in record to what they were in 2023. But they need to get back to that level on the offensive side of the floor, because defensively, it's not going to be elite most likely. So the offense has to be at like a peak level. It needs to be like top 5, top 3 offensive units in the league if they're going to be a playoff team. Because right now, I think they're kind of just sitting in that play-in territory, which, you know, people try to argue that it's not necessarily a bad thing because the Kings have struggled for so long that any bit of relevancy is like good for them. And I kind of understand, because as a Knicks fan, I get that pain. You know, 2 seasons or 3 seasons ago, they were like the story of basketball, and, you know, we wanted to be competent for once, and then we kind of got like, all right, annoyed. We needed something more. And they went out there in the Kings situation and got DeMar DeRozan. This is their more. We need to see if it's going to lead to anything substantial. Right now, I think they're a better team than they were, you know, last season. I think that's pretty obvious. They got a boost in productivity from that small forward spot, especially when you compare it to what they were getting from Harrison Barnes. You're adding a 24-point-per-game scorer, so it can't be that negative. But I think the Kings as a whole will be one of those like super fun regular season teams at the bare minimum. The question will be, is this move enough to actually get them in the real mix and to really be able to contend in the West? Right now, I think they're more with like the Lakers, the Suns, and maybe those teams are probably better than them, but I don't really know. I think the Lakers and the Kings are like same territory. As for the upper tier teams, there's some questions. Like, I think there's a pretty big gap between the Kings and like OKC or something. But this team is going to be fun. You know, it's not to slander them at all, because I actually root for Sacramento's success. I relate to a team rooting for a team that was trash and then, you know, gaining some relevancy. So I understand how their fans feel. And I hope they have a decent season. I think they're going to be probably in the same record territory. I think they'll probably be anywhere from like 46 to 49 wins. Maybe at best a 50-win team, just right there at 50. But the Kings are going to be definitely one of those like super fun league pass teams, and can't wait to watch them play, to be honest. I think Fox, Sabonis, and DeRozan are going to be one of the better big threes that you could have in the NBA. Just don't know if it's going to be enough to win a title, and that's fine. We'll see what happens in the 2024-25 season, as it's coming real close in October. Should definitely be fun. Anyways, that's going to do it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This has been The Checkup, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.